Welcome back to the Road to 1 Million podcast. Today I'm with Andrew Hayslip, owner of CCT Auto Protection Studio and Boat Beautiful down near Austin, Texas. Andrew has started this business when he was 22 and has been doing this for almost 2 decades now. So today we're going to talk about his journey, and he's going to share a lot of insights into his business. Thank you, Andrew, for being so transparent and honest and for coming on the podcast. And thank you, Aiden, Andrew's son, for listening as well and being such a big fan. There was a really cute, cool video that I put up on Instagram of Andrew's son that likes to listen to the Road to 1 Million podcast. So thank you guys for listening. I wanted to give a quick update. I've got a new series on my YouTube. It's a day in the life series. And I'm just kind of showing you guys insights into my detailing business. It's up on the YouTube now. Episode 1 and episode 2 will be going up live on Saturday. So I'm going to start putting these up every single week on Saturdays. Let me know what you guys think and give me some feedback. I really appreciate it. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Don't forget, you guys can use the timestamps in the description if you'd like to skip ahead. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, today I'm with Andrew Hayslip from CCT Auto Protection Studio and Boat Beautiful down in. Are you technically in Austin, or are you in? Is it Lakeway?
Technically, Austin. We're right on the border of Lakeway.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm super excited to talk with you today. And whenever you'd reached out and you told me that you were the largest marine detailing company in Texas, as far as you're aware.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, we service a little over 2,000 clients a year. We service only inland lakes, the Highland Lakes to be accurate here, between Lake Austin, Lake Travis, and Lake LBJ, and I've been doing that for 17 years now.
So did your business start with boat detailing, or did it start with car detailing?
Yeah, I started with boat detailing. Car detailing was a total afterthought on the whole deal here. Grandparents grew up with a house on Lake LBJ, and so thought one summer that I would be able to make a couple bucks, and really ultimately, turned into a job. So it started from 9 clients the first year, and then steadily grew after that.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to a small school in Kansas, played football, and then moved from there to College Station, and was going to transfer into A&M, and wound up going to U of H for a year until I realized that I did more of living the college life than I did actually going to college. So moved here to Austin, where my dad had a house, and waiting tables, bartending, not really sure what I was going to do with my life. And then ultimately started cleaning a couple of grandparents' friends' boats and turned into an actual job.
Was there a lot of competition back then with boat detailing or car detailing?
There was, again, the car detailing was a total afterthought on the side of things. The boat, there was maybe 2 other companies that were kind of, actually established doing things, but no, not really a prominent known thing around here.
Did you see it? Did you have a vision of what it could become, or was it just kind of go
No,
as you?
I was so naive. Had no clue what it could become. I just knew that it was a way to collect some quick monies, and had no clue that it was going to actually turn into a sustainable business that ultimately provided for myself and others. Right. So yeah, no clue on that.
When did it hit you that you could do this full time?
Probably year 3 or 4 is kind of whenever I was like, oh, this is actually sustainable. This is actually something that we can grow. I mean, the whole time I was, like I said, waiting tables and still bartending and all of that on the side in order to make ends meet. But yeah, I mean, year 3 or 4 was like, okay, we can do this business wise.
Was it dollar amount wise, or did you what was it that changed, that clicked?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think obviously, started seeing the revenue that we could potentially generate off of this. And, I was young, single, I was 22 years old, and I was, didn't really have a whole lot of expenditures, other than, obviously, my cost of living. And then it was always fun to be able to dictate my own schedule essentially.
Hmm.
And then of course I always like the physical aspect of being able to get out there on the lake and do stuff as well. But I think for the first 4 or 5 years, I was doing good, making $35,000 to $40,000 a year kind of deal, gross, off of everything. But obviously, started taking it serious around year 5 whenever we started bringing true employees on and setting up locations and vehicles and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like when you bring on the employees, like that's really what changes a lot is like you start to realize, oh, this is a little bit more sustainable. I can scale this now that someone's helping me. I don't have to do everything. I think that that really changes a lot. At least it did for us.
It has to, because I mean, you as an individual can only produce so much in a service based industry by yourself. And so if you're ever going to compound it, you're going to have to, you can't compound it in any other way other than more people, right? I mean, you can only charge a certain amount per hour per yourself. And so if you want to grow it, you have to collect residual off of others essentially in order to make it more sustainable.
Hmm. When did you hire your first employee?
You're I had so I was leading Young Life. I don't know if you're familiar with what Young Life is, non-denominational outreach ministry. And so I worked with a lot of high school kids. And so it was actually really cool because I was able to sit there and do the ministry and hang out with these kids on the side, but also provide them some summer monies as well. So I was skirting the side, handing cash out, doing that, the first couple of years, and then first true employee was probably year 3. First full time employee. We were detailing, at my condo at the time in Westlake. They were, coming to my house, picking up supplies, going out from the house. It was, I would have all the tubs and everything sitting out there with all the supplies ready to go each day. It was quite interesting looking back.
How many employees do you have today?
Right now, I think that we have between the 3 companies, we have 16 employees.
Hmm. How are those split up between your three? Because I know so you've got the mobile
Yeah,
business.
so what we've kind of done is we have Boat Beautiful, which is the boat detailing side of things. Really messed up from the beginning on naming these companies because I've put myself in a tight box. But so we have Boat Beautiful, and then that has its own location here in Austin where we can bring boats in, take care of them on site, and then we have mobile technicians that go out of there. So at any given moment, we have generally 6 to 8 technicians that go mobile or in the shop, detailing there. And then where I'm at right now is I'm at CCT, and so CCT and Car Beautiful, which is Car Beautiful is our mobile auto detail side, are pretty much married together. And out of another location just down the road, we're a mile and a half from each other. And then we have another 4 employees in the shop here, and then sales guy, along with what I like to call a front office experience person.
Hmm. Do you feel like you mentioned you box yourself in by like creating these more niche names? Do you feel like you will ever like rebrand to like put it all under one umbrella or?
I gotta be honest, that would be. I've thought about it. Grant Menard and I went round and round discussing this for weeks, just trying to figure out is this something that's sustainable. And actually, going back to the experience and the story of it's actually probably more desirable for me to hold on to because of that. My grandfather was one of the big execs for Valero, and so out in Horseshoe Bay, like you and I discussed earlier, they would always have a end of day cocktail over at it was called TT's, the Tall Texan. And so I would go sit over there with a bunch of his buddies that have done different things. And one of the guys over there, his name was Jimmy Crownover, and Jimmy C, as we called him, he was actually the inventor of night vision goggles. And
Wow.
so back in the day, we were sitting around and having a cocktail, and I was Hayslip Mobile Boat Detail. I was detailing out of a 2003 Lexus IS 300, right? And he's like, Andrew, I got it. And I was like, what do you got, Jimmy C? And he goes, Boat Beautiful. I was like, that's the name, Jimmy. That's it. And so trickle on down, Boat Beautiful. So we put ourselves in a box. It's actually been good because we can sit there and honestly tell our clients, we do nothing but boat detailing. That is all that those techs do. Those techs don't touch cars. They don't touch anything but boats. So we're experts at that. So that's actually been a huge benefit. But then you trickle down, I'd have many clients come to me and go, well, can you do my cars? And so one of my good buddies named John Lackus, he worked for 3M and McGuire's for many years, doing a lot of training overseas and all that. And local guy here, and he was starting up his own boat detailing manufacturer product company called Hula Boat Care now. But he reached out to me, and I was like, hey, you have the car experience. Can you teach me how to do cars? And so him and I went in and started up Car Beautiful. Of course, right? You got to stick with that name. So we just started up Car Beautiful, and quickly realized that there's no money in auto detailing, and so it's Car Beautiful sits there as a complete loss leader for us at the end of the day. And then obviously ceramic coating came popular, so then we became Ceramic Coat Texas. And then obviously, now we do a lot of PPF and tint. So we recently in the process of rebranding that to CCT Auto Protection Studio.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, going back to it, love to bring it all underneath one umbrella because it ultimately is at the end of the day. We share a lot of the same similarities and stuff, but it's 17 years of kicking the can down the road. It's a little hard to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Are these all under different LLCs?
They're all underneath different LLCs. As of 2025, we have officially split all financials of the companies. And actually Car Beautiful and CCT are underneath the same umbrella. And then Boat Beautiful is a standalone.
Hmm. So Car Beautiful is separate from CCT.
In what regards? So we have
So
separate
because
websites. We have separate, a lot of separate accounts. As far as shared, we have separate bank accounts, stuff of that nature. But they're all underneath the same umbrella from a standpoint of how we payroll and stuff like that.
okay, Car Beautiful is the mobile detailing though.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. And you say that one's kind of a loss leader, like it doesn't make a lot of money.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I've got numbers sitting in front of me over here for you that I'll just share. Car Beautiful year to date. This year we've done $63,479. Last year, I mean, we did a little over 50,000. So like this year to date. So yeah, no, it's minuscule.
How long has that business been in business?
I've had that going for about 10 years,
So
but
do you
there's
feel
no
like
there's
you
no
just
money in it.
sure? Do you feel like you just service the ceramic coating and PPF clients that you guys are doing? Is that kind of why you have it?
Um, yeah, I mean, what was really originally brought on was to service our boat clients, so we could keep it all. Anybody that needed an auto detail as well. We don't really market it. We put it on there, and we post to the Instagram and Facebook and all of that kind of stuff. But we're not sitting here running ads with it. We're not. We don't really make money on it. The margins are not. I don't want to grow it. At the end of the
Hmm.
day.
How does the CCT Auto Protection Studio? How does that compare to like Boat Beautiful? Like as far as your margin and numbers and um, like is
Yeah,
it
margins on both companies are very comparable. Between CCT and Boat Beautiful, we generally run around right at a 30% margin on that. As far as revenue goes, Boat Beautiful obviously being here for 17 years, we're much more established. I mean, to just kind of give you numbers here, Boat Beautiful year to date, we're at 928,000 for Boat Beautiful, and then CCT we're at 499,000.
hmm,
So, and that's where I spend a lot of my time personally. I know that was one of your kind of questions early on was, how I divide up my time personally. And, I really have a desire to watch, Boat Beautiful and CCT grow. I have very established team over at Boat Beautiful from a sales standpoint and operational standpoint. So I'm able to spend more of my time over at CCT and invest in growing that, because year to date last year for CCT, we're at 187,000.
Wow.
So
So you
yeah,
doubled, more than doubled.
yeah. So we've increased 166%.
Wow. What do you
Yeah.
think that,
And
what do you chalk that up to?
um I, I just really getting granular with it, and we've dumped a lot more into ads this year. Spent a lot more time with it, and we're really much more confident in our PPF. We brought PPF on last year, and we're really a lot more confident with it. Really figured out our numbers on it this year, because I will say, when you start PPF or even tent, you're like, how long is this going to take? How much churn do I really have on material? Where can I really expect to be with some of this stuff time wise, especially? And so it was really hard to nail down those processes and get true numbers out of it to be able to systemize it, which we've done now.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, like transitioning into PPF. So you introduced PPF last year.
Yeah, we've had it going for the past like 3 years, but we brought it all in house last year.
Okay. So you were contracting it before,
Correct. And,
just
and
having a
what
guy
and
come to the
that
shop.
Yeah, I had a guy come to the shop, very very well known guy around the area. Still talk to him, still work with him, but it was nothing that we weren't soliciting it. It was one of those, somebody called and asked for it, then I would entertain it, but it wasn't like, oh, you want PPF on this, PPF's a tough one to sub out, I feel like, personally, because everything that we do, we get to see a week later, and every single project that you ever touch PPF wise is going to have a lifted edge, a bubble, something along those lines, or even replacement of a mirror or something there. And so if you're contracting it out and you don't have a true contract, or a true, like, this said person will be back every single Wednesday or every single Thursday, then it's hard to entertain and utilize that without sending them down the road to said contractor, wherever their place of business is or wherever they're at. I feel.
No, I agree. We did that with window tinting for a while, and yeah, it's tough because you only have like 1 day a week. I took that advice from Grant Menard, where he was saying that the way that he transitioned into tent and PPF was he had a contractor come to his facility 1 or 2 days a week, and he would book the jobs on that day. But because they're not a W-2, they're not consistent with it necessarily, and
Yep.
and it's hard to, you're not maybe as familiar with the products and all the little things that maybe he is, so it's hard to set expectations properly. And there's just a lot of people that maybe want to come by today and have you look at it, and it's like, well, you can't really give them the best uh, advice or expectation or educate them the best since you don't know it the best, right? So I understand it's hard when you're not truly doing it in house, but at the same time, it's expensive to do it in house.
Yeah. We're doing that with window tint currently, is we're subbing it out. I've got a guy that's, he's dangerous. He can go throw front twos on pretty much anything. But whenever, you get to, back windows and windshields and stuff like that, it's very challenging, and he doesn't have confidence in doing that. So we're outsourcing some training for him as we go through that. But we're, every Wednesday or Thursday we have a tent guy come into our shop after hours and tents everything that comes in the shop. And
Mm.
so we're there with it. We have all the film, we have the plotter, we have everything like that. So we just bring him in and allow him to tent, and then we sell everything for him that week. Like, for example, like he's coming in this evening. I've actually got a boat for him to go do down the road at Boat Beautiful. I've got 2 full cars for him to do in the shop here. And then I generally sell windshields on, I would say, 8 out of 10 clients that come through here. Those are very easy sells here in Austin. Sell the front windshields, and he'll come in after hours and bang them out tonight and be done and out of my shop by 10 or 11 tonight.
How do you
And then
sell
if
those
they're,
front windshields to 80% of people?
man, I'll say, the heat reduction aspect of it. We're running a 70%. We use SunTex Evolve personally here. I've got I sell everything through video. So we get cars in here. I look around at the cars and I figure out what are true areas that we can, upsell or that we can add value essentially to this client. Cause I don't want to sit there and sell them something they don't need.
Mm-hmm.
But I sit there and go, okay, great. You've got, your back windows are, already tinted glass, front twos, we're going to go ahead and do those. You really want heat reduction out of this. We're going to have to do the windshield. Otherwise, you're not going to, get the full experience of heat reduction out of it. We've got one of the displays that shows the heat transpiring through and the IR and yada yada. So generally, shoot a video on that. That's when we sell door edge guards, door cups, pillars. Those are all pretty much sold on every single one of our jobs through video after the fact.
So are you doing a video personalized for that vehicle? Like, are you doing like selfie style, walking around the
Yep.
car? Yeah.
Yep. Every single vehicle that gets dropped off here, we've got to, we're very regimented on our process, but every single vehicle that gets dropped off here, again, going to go over it with client whenever they drop it off, discuss it with them, but that's not the time to sell. They're already dropping the vehicle off. They're already giving us um, a large amount of business at that point. So if anything comes up at that time, hey, I'm worried about this or this, then we can obviously go into it. But once they leave, we get the vehicle washed, we get it prepped, we get it brought inside. Then I'll take and go look over the vehicle, see if there's any kind of pain points that could be on there. The piano black pillars, obviously, like I said, door edge cups and guards are pretty easy. And then window tint here in Texas is always a desirable thing for sure, whether it's aesthetics or the heat reduction. I don't offer any kind of carbon or anything like that, just top tier ceramic personally. I don't want to get a bunch of mid 2000 vehicles in here just for aesthetic purposes, tint wise. It's not what we want to be. We're much more boutique than that. And then, yeah, selfie video it. I sat here and said, hey, John, sitting here, getting going on your Maserati, noticed a couple of things on here. You don't have any window tint on the front twos, windshield's bare. You don't have any door edge guards. You open it up and, hit the gas pump or anything like that. The long nails underneath there, causing scratches, just a couple options for you. And again, shoot them over the video and then kind of wait for the response. And then it's generally, how much for this, or it's, okay, yeah, I'm interested in these items, not necessarily this item, how much. And then again, you've already got the vehicle in your shop. So therefore, any kind of added revenue on there is pure profit essentially. So your CAC's already gone. So it's like, all right, let's figure out how much, what all we can do. And then I generally kind of throw in, since we already have it in the shop, instead of X number of dollars, now we can do it for X number instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On that podcast I did with Benji from Just Dip It, he was talking about how he took his profit in his business from like 5% margin up to like 20. I believe, don't quote me on those numbers, but it was a significant improvement in the profitability just by doing what you're doing, like just cross-selling these
Yeah,
services.
100%. 100%. It's, I think that we add somewhere between $300 and $500 on every single ticket that comes to the door because of it.
And it's not that people I think feel like pressured into it. It's like they just didn't know about it, and when you explain to them the value, it's a duh, you know?
Yes, yes, and that's why we don't do it at the time of drop off. We don't want it to be salesy. I don't want them like they're already sitting here. At least I would be already sitting here going, man, I'm spending a couple $1,000s already at this place. Great. Let's go over what we're doing to the vehicle. Let's go over what we've already discussed through the sales process. And awesome. And let's get out of here. And then we can come back and revisit it once the vehicle's there. And every day, while a vehicle's here, every vehicle's here at least 2 to 3 days. every day we shoot a selfie video with the vehicle and just kind of saying, hey, John, sitting here working on your Mercedes, we're getting through the polishing process, about to, start prepping for coating. And again, show them behind the scenes how the sausage is made is the terminology I use all the time. Nobody wants to see the end result. They want to see the process, right? Nobody understands what goes on beyond the doors. And so the more that I can bring that in tune with the client, the better. Every single client that comes in here gets a tour of the shop, gets to see part of the process of what we have going on, whether it's for a standard detail, a checkup wash, or anything like that. We're taking them through our shop at some point so they can see our techs and our process.
So going back to PPF, when you decided that you were going to bring that on full time, did you had that guy that was coming in on a contract basis? Did you decide you're going to hire a guy just strictly for PPF? Did he have experience, or did you decide you're going to train someone up?
Yeah, I got extremely lucky, extremely blessed with this one. Had a have a tech. He's still here. Came over from another shop. Didn't like the way things were over there. He got to put on a couple of pieces of film, on Tesla's doors, a couple of hoods, stuff like that, working with those guys. But he was mainly a ceramic coating technician over there. Came over here and he kind of looked at me and was like, man, I want to do PPF. I'm like, all right, if you want to do PPF, then, I'm down to invest in you, but I want to know that you're serious about it. Because I think that you made mention before as well. It's like, it's a lot of investment into it for somebody to turn around and say, I don't want to do it anymore. So he said, no, I'm in it, and love the guy. His name's Tim, thinks completely outside the box. I'll never forget, brought in a truck, a dually, rocker panels. We got the guy to do the rocker panels on it. He's sitting over here fighting them, not able to lay down the rocker panels. But he reached out to a friend that's in the industry, that's very advanced, and had him come to our shop and teach him how to do those. And then so from there, it was, we wound up sending him and another guy off to training in Houston for 3 days. And then it's just been get your hands dirty and keep going. And then we've hired another guy as well that's pretty pretty savvy with PPF. And so those two have gotten the chance to work together now in the back room and just really really perfected the craft.
Mm. Are they doing other things or just PPF?
Um, Tim 99% is only on PPF. Alan's probably 75% PPF, and then some ceramic coating here and there.
Okay. Yeah. One thing I was wondering is like, when, like, let's just say you're going to train up another guy instead of hiring someone. You're going to train up one of your guys that's been doing detailing or ceramic coatings or tint, and you're going to train them up to do PPF. It's like in the beginning, they're obviously busy doing whatever it is that's bringing in the money, their skill. If you were to start training them on doing this new service, it's like, how do we balance that? Like, how do we make sure that you're staying consistent to learn? Because you're going to have to mess up and run through some film in the beginning, get some reps. So you want to make sure you've got stuff on the schedule. Once a week, twice a week. There's needs to be some time just to spend practicing, like with any new skill. But at the same time, balancing that with what actually brings in money and not taking away from that. Um, it's been tough, I think, to find that balance.
Yeah, and you just brought a tent guy in, right? Somebody that's already established in tent.
Yeah, and Chris, he does window tinting or PPF as well as window tinting, but he's definitely not as confident in his PPF.
Sure.
So it's like, and I've heard a lot of the guys in the podcast say that like if you do window tinting really well, you're probably not going to do PPF well,
Yeah.
and vice versa. So nonetheless, I think that he's capable and able to do like those little upsells, like whether it's a door jamb or like pillars or door cups or door edges, and potentially be able to do the like most bumpers and hoods, with where we're like happy with it, but maybe needs to go to like some training again. He's already been to one. Maybe needs to like have just that one day a week because we're not like fully booked out with tent yet, So maybe have one day a week when we're not fully busy, have him just do some PPF or finding some cars to like get some reps in on.
What are you doing with your other guys that you sent off to training for tent at this point? Are they doing any tent now?
No, everyone's pretty much gone back to doing detailing and ceramic coatings. So,
This has always been a big thing that I've been really big on is train somebody to replace yourself on all aspects, right? Um, and then I started like I do not know how to lay PPF at all. I have no desire to learn, no care to learn. I don't need to learn at this point, but I have to have another guy that knows how to lay PPF because I'm big on what if something happens, right? What if, you know, God forbid Tim can't use his arm for a week. He broke his arm. What if no longer part of our team or stuff of that nature. I think that we have to establish ourselves to be able to operate the business without that. So that's always been my thing is, if you know how to polish, you better have somebody else that knows how to polish. If you know how to, run the front office, somebody else better know how to run the front office. Lay film, you better be teaching somebody else how to lay film while you're doing it, kind of deal.
mhm. Yeah, I like that. It is tough though. Like, just you want to stay full. I feel like it almost feels like you have to take one step back to take two steps forward. Like, you have to almost not book your day totally jam packed full with detailing whenever you can. The guys can get it done, but you also you want those guys to spend a little bit of time doing tint or PPF, because if you don't schedule it out, then what ends up happening is your schedule ends up just being full. That's what we found.
Yes, 100%.
So you don't put it on the schedule. It's like with anything, right? Like, if you don't make time for it, like, this is a priority. I need, or I want Austin to learn some window tint. So, like, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, he needs to spend some time. And if we don't purposely schedule that out on his calendar, then it will fill up with other stuff.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, I don't know if, like, looking back, I mean, do you feel like you just kind of have to accept that there will be a time period where you're not making as much money? Maybe, there's a guy that's, you're paying him more or less just to, like, train and just be okay with that, the one step back for two steps forward type thing? Or do you have any, like, thoughts looking back at your own experience with it?
Looking back at it, I think that we got, like I said, in a very blessed position where we were. We had a guy that wanted to learn, that was had the desirability to learn. We knew that we were going to burn through some costs, right? We knew that we were trying to establish him learning slash what is our cost of film slash what is our quality that we're putting out. That there was all of those, but knew in the long term, if we were going to sit there and we really going to offer this service and offer this service to the best of its ability, that we had to take those expenditure hits. You have to go buy the detail rig, right? You have to invest in a shop. You have to do certain things during the business cycle that are expenditures that will ultimately move you forward. And this is just one of those that you have to. And the unfortunate thing where I keep saying that we got really blessed at is it all lined up with that individual. We didn't go through three individuals trying to find the right individual. And
Hmm.
so I think that's the hardest part of it, is finding the right person that truly has an eye for it, has the ability to do it, and has the desire to do it. And I can teach anybody how to polish. I can teach anybody this day and age how to apply a ceramic coating. I can't teach anybody how to do PPF or have anybody that has the detail oriented eye or mindset to apply PPF.
Do you think that's what separates, like, the people that really need to be doing PPF? Is it's just, like, detail oriented, or, like, is there anything else that stands out amongst those people?
Patience. Patience. I mean, these guys, I have one of my other guys that's, over at Boat Beautiful. He went to the PPF training and great. The guy's been with me for 7 years. Amazing guy. He just didn't have the patience to do PPF. He's detail oriented. He just is like, this is just aggravating me too much. So yeah, I
Hmm.
think that the ability to pull it off, redo a panel, see 3 steps ahead, of kind of what's gonna rise, what's going to finger up on you, where you're gonna have to make a relief cut, where you're not. I think all of that obviously factors into the process.
Mm-hmm. How do you like communicate with your team to, I'm sure there's guys that work for you now that like want to do more. Maybe some of the guys they're seeing the PPF guys and maybe they want to do that, or maybe some of the detail guys they want to start doing more coatings or corrections or even get into window tinting or something. Like how do you balance that with like allowing these guys to move up in your business, and make the money that they want to make, but at the same time it's like still having a vision for the business and ultimately you kind of leading the charge.
Yeah, we have very open dialogues right here. We have great team building. We do a lot of stuff together. We have a full bar here in our office, so we'll often get together and have the guys come over here and we'll play cornhole. We have a pool table in there, all that stuff, and just kind of team build. So there really isn't anything that goes unsaid. You have certain guys. I've got a guy named Mark over at Boat Beautiful who's been with me, I think now going on 8 or 9 years, and has no desire. He's 60, in his mid 60s, has no desire to do anything other than boat detail. Doesn't want to, do any kind of paint correction. Doesn't want to do any kind of ceramic coating. He just wants to detail boats on the dock. And then, so, you just kind of individually learn where each one of these guys are. And, have a guy named Ross here at CCT, but Ross thought he wanted to do some sales. So we transitioned Ross from, being a mobile auto detailer and ceramic coating installer to in the shop to do some sales. Ross, 2 weeks in is like, I really want to get back out and actually, go back out in the shop. And I said, that's
Mm.
fine. Let's figure out a way to get there. And then Ross, after being established in here, decides, he goes, Andrew, like, I really want to learn tent now. So I said, great, Ross, let's get that. So we've got a training coming up to send him and Alan to learn tent better. And so
Mm.
again, we'll provide value and we'll provide what they desire so long as it's what they want
Mm.
and we can fill it. And I think that early on I was more secretive of how we did things and how the sausage was made, right? I was more secretive of that. But the longer I've been in this business, the more I will divulge, the more like I have no problem giving you every single recipe that I've done and that we want to do and that we continue to do, because I think that it adds buy-in from your team. And when your team sees your vision and sees what you ultimately want to create, then they're more on board and they want to be a part of it. And then there may be places where they want to see themselves in the company that you didn't necessarily see for them. And then you're
Mm.
going to have your guys that are, I'm perfectly happy going out there detailing and making my monies and going home to my family, because all of our guys work Monday through Friday. And I've had guys that want to work weekends and we're like, no, I don't want to work the weekend. So you're not going to work the weekend. And so there's a very open dialogue amongst us as far as where we're at, where we see strong suits at, where they see themselves at, and so forth.
So take Ross for example that wants to learn window tint, um, and you're sending him to training, which is obviously it cost you a little bit of money to
Sure.
send him to training, and then he comes back in and like he knows how to do paint correction, ceramic coating, detailing really well. So like that's what earns the company the most money. When he's doing window tinting, like he's probably running through a little bit of film. He's taking a little bit longer. So like how do you balance that out with like allowing him to still get his reps when he gets back from training with window tint, but like not spending all day every day doing something that's just kind of wasting his time and money.
There's going to definitely be a balance. And again, we're a huge team here. We're a huge culture based team. It's funny. Tim's his best friend. Tim actually goes, Ross, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to come up here on the weekend and get some reps in on your own in order to get good at this. And Ross is already like, yes, I know that. So the same way that I related back to my kids and a lot of things, but my 9-year-old son, he's like, I want to be the best at soccer. And I'm like, great, you got soccer practice on Mondays and Wednesdays, dude. Those are given. That's time for you to do soccer. But if you really want to be the best, you're going to have to go in whenever I'm not the one telling you to do this. And so same thought process here is, Ross, I will put you, we have 8 company vehicles. We can rip 10 off of every one of those. We can reapply 10. I've got loads of carbon film back there that we can just play with. We can do it all. We can block out some time schedules during business. I've got no problem eating some of that cost. But if you ultimately really want to get good at this and you really want to make monies on it, you're going to have to put in those times after hours. And it's just
Mhm.
going to have to be, if you're bought in and that's what you want to do and you want to be great at it and be great at that craft, then that's what we're ultimately going to have to do.
Yeah. It's a tough balance, man, between like you as the owner being like, we're going to put down this time, that time, like really hold their hand versus like you kind of letting them make the calls. Like the way you just said it to me, it's almost like you're talking to your son. It's like, hey, I'm not going to make you do this necessarily, um, but I'm going to like steer you in the direction of what I think needs to happen in order for you to do this well and do this more full time.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I know this has been a discussion that many detail companies have had, but we pay all of our guys percentage. So if you take 10 hours to detail the car or you take 2 hours to detail the car, you get paid a percentage. Now, ultimately, all of our pricing is based off of hourly, right? At the end of the day, that if you don't do that as a company, I don't think you're doing yourself well. But everything's based off of how many hours does this take. And so that, going back to the tent talk, is if we're having to rip 10 off 5 times and redo it, I can't pay any more. There's going to be a learning there's going to be a learning curve there. There's going to be a learning cost there. But
Mm-hmm.
then if Ross is now able to do front twos in a matter of 30 minutes, well, his pay rate just went up exponentially. So there's going to be that portion of it, right? And then there's going to be the portion of it as a company to where, we're not going to let our guys fail, but we're going to give them parameters that are ultimately going to help them be more successful, but they're going to have to eat a little bit of the cost on the learning curve. I mean, same way that we have a training pay that we pay employees whenever they come in here and they're training on something new. Same thought process is, you're not going to be the greatest, but if you want to be the greatest, you're going to have to learn along the way and eat a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Are all of your jobs done solo, or do they work together on a job?
All of our boat details, standard boat details, are all done solo. Auto details themselves are all done solo. Where we start marrying stuff together really is like on bigger boats, where it's, 4 or 5 days, 50-foot boat. We'll marry guys together there. In the shop for CCT, where you start having, ceramic coating, PPF, stuff like that, then we marry those together. And
How,
so, go ahead.
how do you split up the commission?
Yep. So at CCT, we pay everything flat commission of 20%. And so we're really big on clocking your hours, clocking in, clocking out. We're on a very big honor system around here. So, like I said, these guys are best friends. They have this culture built together. So you start your time and you pause your time and you end your time. And then when payroll comes, we put it all together and say, great, here's 20% of $1,000. And John worked on it for 5 hours, and Bobby worked on it for 10, and Susie worked on it for 4. And we just split up the 20% evenly across the board there.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Who runs
it
payroll for you guys?
so we have a company called Sure Payroll that does everything, but I, at the end of the day, put everything into the payroll system.
Yeah. So like you go in and you calculate, you look at
Yeah.
every job, you see how long the guy spent on that job, and then you calculate um, accordingly how much each guy should be paid.
Correct. Yep. We use Your Able, and they have a great. I don't know if you've delved into their system at all, but they have a great, tracking, pre-uploading of photos and timestamps and all that kind of stuff.
Mm. Mm. Do they allow you to track like per job, like an employee can clock in and then you can see
Mm-hmm.
exactly how long they spent on that specific job?
Exactly. They clock in, pause it, go work on something else, start on it, pause it, all that. Yes.
Wow.
per line item even too. So that's even nice.
Wow. Yeah. Huh. One thing we've realized, I think I mentioned this on the podcast in the past, but in the beginning, we set our commission up to where we paid our employees what we felt like was a fair wage for like the time that they were spending, So like we looked at how much the business was making per hour, charging for this job, how many jobs we could do in a day. Okay, the business, based on how we were pricing and how long we were taking, business could make back in the day like $400 or $500 a day. And so like what percentage of commission do we need to pay that's like above market rate so that we're paying our guys well, um, and they're earning a fair wage.
Yeah.
And it was like really high because when you're only charging $400 for a full day's worth of work, you have to pay a higher percentage commission. If you're paying 20% on $400, that's $80. It's like, that's not going to cut it,
But you're nailing it. That's why we don't do auto detailing. That is
Mm-hmm.
exactly why we hate auto detailing in our car side of things. Mobile detailing we don't do because we can't. I mean, we're sitting here charging $425 for a car detail and it's taking our guys 6 hours. Like there's no money, there's no margin there. And so to what you're saying is we pay out 40% on car details to
Mm-hmm.
our techs.
Wow.
We have no margin because again, they have to make money, right? And and then boats we pay out 30%.
Okay.
So with all that said, yeah, there's it basically, we come down to we need every one of our guys. We throw the number out $125 an hour. We need them to do in sales for us in order to meet our margins that we want to make. And all that said, we have an expectation of how long it should take on each one of these jobs. So we schedule accordingly to that, hey, look, this full front should take you, 18 hours hypothetically. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but 18 hours. And so we've allocated that to them. They're going to sit here and make their monies off of it. And now what's really nice is if I walk in the back room and Tim's sitting there on his phone or they're sitting around chit-chatting or anything like that, I don't care. I don't care what they're doing. They know that on Wednesday, this full front has to go out. That's what we've told the client. That's what the expectations are. So sometimes the guys are done at 4 o'clock. Sometimes they're up here till 7 o'clock. Sometimes they, will go all eat lunch together. Sometimes they bring their lunch. So I let them self-govern what they need to do and their monies, and I won't overbook them and for what they have unless we've got that one client that's like, oh, I need to get in before the weekend or something, and then we can have that discussion. But outside of that, they all know that they work their hours that they desire. The only rule is you have to be here at 8 in the morning. Outside of that, I don't care if you take a lunch at 11 or if you take a lunch at 2 or if you don't take a lunch and you get out of here at 4, it doesn't matter.
So are you guys trying to book a certain dollar amount of jobs like per day, or do you think about it a little bit differently?
Per week. Per week. Yep. We want to book a certain dollar amount per week per company.
And then naturally, as long as you're putting enough time for each job, it should naturally work itself out. Because if you're quoting this job, this full front at $2,500, it's like that it should take about 20 hours to do. So
Correct.
if you throw that
Correct.
on the schedule, to get up to fill your weekly revenue goal, than like the hours, because roughly how long it should take for the total, that it should work itself out like that.
Yep. Yep. And again, I mean, going back to your able, they have it shows in the top right corner of every one of our platforms how much is booked that week, how much you have in revenue that week. So it basically just kind of tells us what we have, and we know what our guys in the shop are able to perform each day, kind of deal. So we try to book, either a full front PPF or two coatings in a full front, or depending on how it's lined out that day.
Mm-hmm. How long does it take you to run the payroll, or just figure it before you send it off?
Yeah, if the guys do their job well and they they hit their numbers and clock ins and outs, I generally every other Thursday spend about on CCT alone spend probably about 2 hours.
Hmm. That's the hardest part about the commission for us was like it's like
Yep.
that time, and then just there can be. It sounds like your guys are very disciplined about it, and the system you're able helps a bunch. But like if you don't have that system, um, it just kind of creates. I don't know. It can kind of create a headache for the
Oh,
person running the payroll.
don't get me wrong. It can 100 be an annoyance, 100% be an annoyance through and through. Yeah, it's a constant going. But they, like I said, they laugh with each other. They'll leave times running overnight, and it's like, oh man, you guys got to. And then so Tim has the ability to go in and edit it, so it's not me having to mess with it or anybody else. So that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like selling these jobs, PPF and coatings in particular. I want to know this doesn't exist as much for tint. I was actually talking to my buddy Jacob down in Joplin. He's about an hour away. And we were talking just this week about maybe sending people a video that are interested in window tinting to try to like show like where we're different. My theory is that you're still going to get a lot of people, especially with just window tinting, like the law of numbers that's going to tell me that if 100 people are looking for window tinting, 50 of them, like they're just price shopping and they don't care if you send them a video that explains your process. Like just because it's a high volume keyword. There's a lot more people looking for it. There's a lot of people that just think about it. Um, they don't think about the experience as much as I just need my windows darker.
Yep.
But when it comes to PPF and coatings, I feel like there's such a higher rate out of the percentage of people looking for this service that are looking for that person to really walk them through the process and like create that experience and like build that trust because it's so much more nuanced and like unknown. And so do you guys have like a certain sales process like before the customer even gets in the door of like converting leads and just building that trust and that experience?
Yeah, we are 100% experience driven. I cannot stress that enough. Everything that we've done is built to be experience. So we have general typical lead forms that clients fill out. We have an AI bot that we run on there to take the initial inquiry, essentially to respond back via text message and to kind of do a little bit of the investigation on what they're desiring, what they're looking for, and then we want to get them on the phone. If I I've maybe closed two people in my entire life via text message. There's really no sense in trying that this day and age, right? There's so much competition that's the only way that you're going to differentiate yourself is based off of the experience this day and age. I could probably take 5 shops, put them all to work side by side with each other, and the average consumer is not going to be able to tell you the difference amongst the top three at all. So once I get them on the phone personally, talk through everything, you have buyers and you have people that immediately book, but that's the rarity this day and age. It's really it's a long game process. It's a process of showing that customer is cared for and is not just another number at the end of the day. So we generally get on the phone, talk to them, have a conversation, discuss what's being, their pain points. Because again, all we're doing from a sales standpoint is we're just solving a problem for said person. So go through that, and like I said, throw out some numbers. Sometimes we send a proposal afterwards. Sometimes numbers don't even come up. It's no longer of even desire for them or need for them. And then from there, I try to get on and do a selfie video for every single person at that point. I get on, or Gage, our sales guy, gets on and goes, "Hey, Gage here, CCT. Great talking with you about your, Mercedes. Just wanted to put a name and face." And the whole time we're walking around our shop, showing you our full lobby, our bar, everything that we have, kind of going on in the background, right? Walk you out to the shop. Just wanted to kind of show you around here. This is our prep area. This is where we do all of our polishing and ceramic coating. And then we have a whole back room where we do all of our PPF. That's a clean room. So, we just talk through that way again, because people buy from people. So we try to put a name and face together with that, kind of go through the experience. I will say we're kind of pigeonholed as a company because we are out here on the outskirts of Austin, right next to the lake. So we're in a very affluent area, but we're not central Austin. So people, rarely will drive out here to come visit with us before their appointments. And most of our clients are driving a good ways to get to us. So it's even more, has to be that bond point with them. But yeah, I think that's creating the experience. The more that you can put name and face together, the more check-ins that you can do, the more relatable points that you can make with somebody is definitely in this game. Whenever our average ticket is $3,250, you have to be that.
Hmm. Are you spending a lot of time talking about the product and like the processes that you do? Like, are you like telling people like with PPF, like, oh, hey, I want to let you know that we're going to wrap every edge, and that we use a film that's it's not going to fade, it's warranted.
Yeah. I mean, at this day and age, that's what's expected from everybody. At this day and age, that's what's expected from everybody. 10 years self heal, not gonna yellow. I spend more time talking about who we are and what we're about and customer relationally with them than I do about products. I rarely sit there and even name brand our products that we utilize. Somebody asks, I'll tell them. I don't care. But they're buying that. They ultimately need to understand that they're buying that service. They're buying the company. They're not buying the product. I can
Hmm.
give you the world's best product, but if that product fails and the service provider doesn't do anything for you, it doesn't matter. If I get calls every week of, hey, I got a ceramic coating put on, can you check it for me? All right, somebody did PPF on my car, and I'm like, okay, cool. Where are they at? Oh, they're no longer in business. Okay. And so, how many people are going to be sitting here in business in that 10-year span of your PPF? Been in business 17 years, not going anywhere.
I just had a guy call me, filled out a form actually on a Facebook lead, and I called him, and the first thing he said was, he goes, yeah, tell me how long you've been in business for. And I was like, well, we've been doing this for 6 years, Austin and I. He's like, okay. He's like, I had a guy that used to come out to my house, and he's not in business anymore. And so, yeah, I think you're
Yeah,
like you're saying, it's a big thing.
it is. I mean, that you can't replicate that, right? That's yeah. I can try to go get 50 more Google reviews, or I can try to go um, get some other object, but I can't make myself in business any longer.
It's those relationships that you've had for like 3, 4 years, and like some of our clients will call us up and like we'll talk with them like friends and family, and
Yes.
um, I don't know. Part of me, there's some of my friends, some of them that are like business owners that they're always talking to me about like thinking about exit plan at some point, like making your business to where it can be sold, where you could sell it, and it's tough. I'm like torn between a rock and a hard place because I feel like what separates ourselves is that personal relationship, and that's good. Like you shouldn't want to systemize your business so much to where it's like it just doesn't even feel, because I don't even think the business would work at that point. Like what people come to you for is for the human relationship of it. And that doesn't mean that your business isn't worth anything. Like it can still be valuable if you ever were to sell it and still have that personal relationship with some of your clients. Um, yeah, I don't know if you think about that ever.
I think about, building the business to be sellable. One thing that I would say that I really pushed in probably about 5 years ago was getting me out of being the face of it in a lot
Hmm.
of ways. I don't want people calling to talk to me, or having to talk to me in order to have something done. I think that again, just it hurts a business ultimately, because then you're the end all be all and they don't want to work with anyone else. And if you're truly going to grow, you need to empower each person that's here to be really good at what they do. And so, yeah, I mean, there's the business side, but again, training somebody to replace yourself, right? How do I train I've got Aaron who's in our front office, and he's our front office experience guy. How do I train him to do these voice phone call or the same way that I do them? So
Mm-hmm.
now he's the experienced driver and doesn't have to, experience isn't always here. You don't ever want to go to that place where the work's only good when the owner or the manager's there. You want the work to be just as good or the experience to be the same. And that's one thing that I've always said too is I don't care if you're spending $200 or if you're spending $5,000 with us, your experience better be the same. Because what's going to happen is John's going to go tell Bobby that, hey, when I got in, I was offered a beer. And then John and Bobby's going to come in and go, all right, I'm going to get a beer when I come in. And if he's not offered that beer, then his experience has changed. His service may be the exact same. The result of the service may be the exact same, but his experience is totally different. And so how can we sit there and get all of our team to be on that same experienced driver and for them to establish those relationships, going back to that, as you've established those relationships as well?
Mm. Did you have to like at some point in your business, did you have to like take a step back and be like, okay, I've been doing things all in my head and I've got to like get this stuff down on paper and systemize it. And I'm going to have to go back and like, it's going to be a little annoying talking to some of the guys maybe about the things that we need to revisit. Like they probably are already doing this for the most part, but like, did that hit you at some point and how did you do that?
Yeah, so we've always had an order of operations for the boat detailing process. From the moment of like hitting test spots to taking covers off to washing covers and where to put them at and all of this stuff. So we've always had that in play. But yeah, and we wound up looking at that saying that's really working out really well. And so then we're like, well, why don't we have this in other areas? So we have put together so many SOPs just based off of this stuff. And again, it's things that these guys are already doing, but we've actually written it down. And I'm going to tell you, when ChatGPT came out a couple years ago, that was the holy grail of taking everything from my head, because I don't love writing, but taking everything from my head and just divulging it into a singular system and building these systems that we've essentially, for lack of better words, already had in play, but now actually being able to write them out. Because again, we want all of this to be plug and play. We want anybody that walks into this shop, day one employee, to be able to hand them, here you go. This is how we do things. This is the expectations. Do I expect you to read all this? No, but it's all here. That way you can be caught up and be part of our team.
Did you have to revisit that with any of your old employees?
A lot of the old employees, they helped establish that more. They would sit there, and it's funny, especially on the boat side. I've got Jacob who's kind of running the employees over there, and then Alex who kind of runs the office and does the sales over there. And it's funny because they'll come to me wanting to put together a new procedure on something, or hey, guys aren't doing this, so we're going to put together this procedure in order to help them better do these things. And so I think overall, like, everybody has already bought into it, but it's now just continuing to improve on those. It's things that they should be doing. We haven't reinvented the wheels, things that they should be doing anyway. Now it's just, here's guidelines on how you do it.
Yeah, there's a good book. You read it called Start with Why.
Mm-mm.
It's a pretty good book. I mean, you can get the gist of it just by me saying the name of the book.
Well,
But
it's my life that I live by. I tell my kids and everybody that I work with, if I can't tell you why to do something, then don't do it. Please don't do it. So
exactly, exactly. I love that, man. So I always try to explain the why behind it because
yes,
there's nothing more frustrating than when I was a kid. And I'm sure you do this with your
because
kids, right?
mom said so, because dad said
Yes.
so, 100%. It's like, no, 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 no. Oh, trust me. Why do I need to go to bed? Because I said so. Yeah, no, for sure.
There's some of those things that, like, as a father, as a business owner, like, it's not that you don't have the why. It's just like you're just exhausted, and you're just like, listen, please do this right now.
More times than I care to admit.
Yeah, but it is so important to to back up the reasoning with the why, and I think that's really what causes. I think that's what is probably causing your team to like want to enforce these standard operating procedures. Because like, what employee ever wants to start creating standard operating procedures? Like, that's not the first thing that they think. Like, I really need to create standard operating procedures. But if you explain to them the why, and if they can see that, oh, we're helping new employees so that when they come, like, they're not making mistakes, and those mistakes will become a pain in your butt if we don't have these standard operating procedures, then they start to see that, I think.
Oh, 100%. I mean, these guys, like, I tell them all the time, like, guys, I promise you, I'm not doing this to be just a pain in your side. Like, I'm doing this so you're more profitable. So ultimately, we're more profitable as a company. So we all make more money. It's in place to help you,
Hmm.
not to hurt you. You don't want to sit here and have this operating procedure on how to detail the interior of a car, and then your buddy doesn't follow it, and now it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This car is going home at 5, and we open up the door, and now you have to jump in there and go help them out in order to get this out, because we're not going to let quality fail. And so, anyways, it's like this is all for your benefit. At the end of the day, I know you see it as somewhat monotonous, or you see it as ridiculous that you're even having to entertain it, but it's there to help you.
Yeah, it's when guys get underneath them, when they see new guys making mistakes, that I think that they really start to, or maybe not even making mistakes, just coming on and like not knowing what to do. Like, that's when they really start to get it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Oh, when you start pulling that curtain back more, and they're starting to, going back to even Ross, I thought it was the most hilarious thing. He got to come in the office, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, there's a lot that happens in here. There's a lot more to operating this. Like, I didn't see it." And it's like, yes, like, start pulling that curtain back more and more, and guys will do one of two things, right? Guys will do one of two things. Either they'll realize this isn't for them, which is fine. It's not for everybody, or they'll really buy in and go, "Oh gosh, we're doing this, and we're doing this right. Let's be great at this."
I love that. Well, Andrew, this has been great, man. I'm gonna call it there, but thanks for coming
Yeah,
on, dude, and for just being generous with your time and sharing some of your experience and your knowledge.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Let me know if you ever have any questions.
I will. Yeah, I'll link all your stuff in the description, and if anyone listening ever has questions, I know that I think Andrew would probably be more than happy to help too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Always happy.
Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for listening.